First at 5:30, the Mason County Sheriff's Department says fire crews are responding to a restaurant fire in Ludington. Details remain very limited at this time, but we do know units are on scene at the Applebee's on West US 10. Drivers are asked to use caution and avoid the area if possible. Stay with us this morning as we work to get more information on this fire. It's been almost a year since the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School, and authorities still don't have a motive. Connecticut officials released a 44-page summary of the investigation Monday. The report shows that 20-year-old Adam Lanza planned last December's attack, but it does not explain why he attacked or why he targeted Sandy Hook. Within 11 minutes, Lanza killed 20 children and 6 adults before taking his own life. Investigators say the report released is separate from a much larger evidence file. Connecticut State Police plan to release that at an unspecified time. A new set of bills is making its way through the state Senate that really puts kids' reading skills to the test. The read or flunk bills would hold back students who are not reading proficiently by the end of 3rd grade. Well, dogs are often guilty of being adorable and messy, but one canine in South Carolina got involved in a real crime and he was caught red-pawed. He doesn't look very tough. This husky named Cato slipped his leash last week and went right for the Dollar General store down the street. Cato slipped inside through the automatic doors. Employees did not notice the dog, but they did notice dog treats chewed up and laying around the store. He was apparently stealing these treasures. He went behind the store and buried them. Eventually, surveillance footage proved Cato to be the culprit.
Cato knew exactly what he was doing.
And you can see the police.
Right.
The police went to the house.
Look at the guilty look on his face right there.
I know, he knows.
Yeah, he's lucky he's not in jail right now.
He was pretty smart, though, to bury them.
Right.
That's good thinking.
Right, but still he was found out.
He was.
The long and winding road that leads to your door.
Just last summer, Randy Matson was singing a very different tune.
I had just started, the weekend before that, started breathing like, and it's like, I didn't do anything. What am I breathing hard for?
He brushed off nagging symptoms like this for weeks as he worked a rigorous job keeping Munson Medical Center clean.
He's pushing his floor scrubber and he's leaning on it and he's really pale and sweaty. And we stopped to talk. I said, Randy, you don't look so good.
That's until physician's assistant Danette Wells caught him struggling in the hallway, and it wasn't the first time.
And it was just multiple occasions. He kept telling me that it was his blood sugar. Well, we would check his blood sugar and it's never low. I said, Randy, this isn't your blood sugar. You need to, you should be able to walk 40 feet without getting short of breath. You're not getting any better. And he said, well, I'm getting older. No, that's not acceptable. You need a cardiac workup.
She kept persisting, and eventually he listened.
I said, okay, I will make the appointment. And that day I did. I got on the phone, I don't know, during another break, made an appointment, and within a day or two, few days, had the stress test. And that's what got the ball rolling.
The test showed something very serious was happening in Randy's body. Doctors found a 90% blockage in his carotid artery.
When it changes colors here, that is because the flow is accelerating or speeding up through a blockage that he had.
Just as Dr. Adams was calling to tell Randy the news.
And I said, well, I can't see the water, the bay. It just is a big cloud. It's all whited out. It's kind of hard to think. And he says, get to the ER right now. Drop everything and get to that ER.
The next day, he had emergency surgery to open up the carotid artery, which saved his life. Randy's story represents a much bigger problem.
Well, I think he's lucky. He's lucky that all this happened the way it did, because oftentimes people would dismiss or downplay the symptoms that they have, and they would show up after they've had some type of irreversible event.
It's essential for everyone to listen to what their body is telling them and forget trying to be a hero.
Some of our patients are at higher risk than others, those with diabetes, high blood pressure, those that smoke, high cholesterol, or if you have a family history of heart disease.
I hope men can learn from my life is that, boy, I've got this feeling going on and it's not really right, or, this is not right. And I really need to get into a doctor. Just make an appointment.
Now Randy is back on his feet, but he says without the help of God and Danette, his song might have had a different ending.
He thinks that I'm his angel. I said, Randy, you have more to do. You have so much more to give to the world.
Frank, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
She's just an angel. She said, let us take care of you. And I just kind of melted. And, okay, you know, so she got through to me where, you know, my wife might have not been able to. No one loves you the same.
Because he listened, Randy can continue being.
He's the guy that sings all the time with his broom, like Fred Astaire, Cary Grant.
I know why you say goodbye, say hello.
In Grand Traverse County, I'm Jessica Dupnack reporting for 9 and 10 News.
Why you say goodbye, say hello. Hello.
Ah, the pleasant sound of my alarm going off at 1 a.m. I start my day when most are sleeping. Good morning, Northern Michigan. It's 4:30 here on Michigan This Morning. I really couldn't see myself anywhere else but on a morning show. The upbeat atmosphere, the viewers, the coffee, but the hours do take a toll. I literally will sometimes set my alarm for 2 minutes later. Okay, just to get 2 more minutes of sleep. It's pretty sad. I know that third shifters out there can relate to my struggles. It was time to find out what's wrong with my sleep. That's where the Munson Sleep Disorder Center comes in. My first visit to the center started much like any other doctor's appointment. Your neck is 13.5. Once intake was over, it was time to see Dr. Margaret Moen.
Jessica, can you tell me what kind of problems you're having with your sleep?
My best option, or only option, is to shift sleep. I sleep in 2 chunks. I take an afternoon nap, then I grab another few hours right before work. We figured out I'm getting less than 6 hours of sleep per day.
So 5.5 hours of sleep is really not a sufficient amount of sleep to be well rested and to function at your best.
And the doc was right. I wasn't at my best. I tried and I was dozing off watching TV. I was dozing off making food. Anything I did, I was falling asleep. After hearing what I had to say, Dr. Moen had a lot of questions for me.
Do you know if snoring runs in your family? Is it almost impossible to read?
There's no reading that goes on. As I slouched back in my chair, literally getting tired just talking about sleep, the verdict was in.
I would recommend a sleep study.
Not everyone gets the okay for a sleep study. Sometimes it just isn't needed. But in this case, an in-depth look at what happens when my head hits the pillow was in order.
I'm a little nervous. Well, that's okay.
I put on my PJs and headed to Munson Sleep Disorder Center for my sleep study. To be honest, I felt a little uneasy sleeping somewhere strange and being videotaped the whole time. But Pam, the sleep study technician, made me feel right at home.
Feeling for normal bumps and lumps that we have on our head.
As you can see, I was all wired up. Pam hooked me up to brain monitoring electrodes, an oxygen gauge, and finally, the most uncomfortable, a breathing monitor in my nose.
Try your best to just tune out the wires.
You might be wondering, how can someone sleep like this? Well, you're about to find out.
It's cozy in here.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that.
After Pam tested the equipment, it was time for me to sleep.
Good night.
After 30 minutes of TV time, it was lights out.
You can see a little bit of her eyes starting to roll a little bit. She's still moving and trying to get comfortable.
And in just 15 minutes,
Jessica is asleep here.
While I was sleeping, Pam spent the night tracking 41 different categories that were being monitored as I went through the sleep cycle. There are 4 stages of sleep plus rapid eye movement, better known as REM sleep. Each stage has its own characteristics, which are reflected by varying peaks and valleys on the computer screen.
So we'll watch that try to get smaller and smaller.
At 4:22 in the morning, my eyes snapped open and I was awake and feeling surprisingly rested. Now I had to wait for nearly 7 hours of sleep data to be analyzed before getting the results in my final appointment with Dr. Moen.
You did pretty good being able to fall asleep considering it was in the sleep lab environment, which can be a little bit different with the wires on you and such. And your sleep structure was normal.
Since quality of sleep isn't my issue, then why am I so tired?
So what we come down to is really a shift work issue.
Well, my crazy hours aren't going anywhere, but Dr. Moen said there are some simple things that can be done to make the most of the sleep I do get.
Exercising during the day does help us to sleep better. The kind of exercise where your heart rate's up.
This next bit of advice the doctor couldn't stress enough.
There's a general rule of thumb that sleep doctors have about the clock, which is the clock is the enemy of sleep. And no one really needs to know what time it is in the middle of the night. If it's not time to get up, it's not time to get up. That's all you need to know.
And
I would say that it should be so dark that you would have to turn on a light in order to be able to read.
it sure can be tough to unplug and unwind, but discipline seems to be the key to quality sleep. For me, the hardest of all the doctor's suggestions is definitely going to be kicking the dogs out of bed. But it's worth a good night's sleep. Gears Farm in McBain, a place that was literally almost forced on the owners when they started tending the land in 1990.
Well, it started out, it was the farm that was my grandfather had, and we started raising pumpkins to feed our cows, and people found out about the pumpkins and they started coming out, so it just kind of took a life of its own.
And it's been a fun ride along the way, even for the animals. Right off the bat, we get greeted by Cody, the golden retriever, and Grizz, this cute little fluff ball that just won't stop barking. But it's not just Grizz that has something to say. It seems all the animals are trying to tell us something. You see, Gears has lots of things for their visitors.
Want to keep adding to give people a reason to come back and make it entertaining for people.
And they do. To this camera-shy miniature baby donkey. From a goat who is not camera-shy at all and will walk on the edge of this just to get a snack. Then come to our camera and try to eat it. From the Discovery Barn to their new meeting and snack areas where you can get these cider slushies and stay out of the rain if you need to. And
the duck races and the zip line has become very fun. And we have the big slide in the barn.
All that's great, but during our visit, all we heard was this, over and over. Well, obviously not speaking rooster, sheep, cow, or pig, we asked Farmer Barney what all the racket is about.
I don't know. They just have, my wife's become the donut queen, and it's just everywhere. We smell like donuts when we go to town, and I guess it's everywhere we go. They talk about the donut lady.
It turns out they sell hundreds of dozens of donuts each season.
It's a mess. The line, last year the line was like 2 hours long, and we knew we had to do something about that. Nobody has to wait that long for a donut.
So they bought this super duper donut maker. And along with some sugar and a little love, looking back at 23 years has been a fun ride for the Gears family.
First it didn't look like it was going to be. It looked like it was going to be a burden, but it's really turned out to be a fun thing to do.
And at the end of our time at Gears Farm, we finally figured out what the animals were trying to tell us. And it's something you'll know if you visit. It's that they have the best donuts ever. And how can you argue with these customers?